What about Elon Musk? Good point from an anonymous attendee. Elon Musk tweets an effect on the Bitcoin price has been a shock to the system. If the coin has value, the network is so vital. How can one man's opinion swing the price so much? The Elon factor. Anthony.
Well, I think that's more evidence about how early we are. Peter mentioned that I'm late to the game, but I actually don't think so. I think we're in the very, very early innings of this. And Elon Musk's approach and his influence on Bitcoin, I think, is evidence of how early we are. There will come a time where no one person will be able to have that kind of influence over the network. But as Elon Musk admitted in his interview with Cathie Wood and Jack Dorsey, he has several $1 billion worth of Bitcoin across his personal account, SpaceX, and Tesla.
Yeah, well, I would think that the fact that one man's tweets can have such an impact on the daily price valuation is another reason that Bitcoin fails as money. It's just too volatile on a daily basis routinely, and it's too subject to manipulation.
What about Alan Greenspan and Jerome Powell and people like that, Peter? What about those?
Yeah, well, gold isn't functioning right now as a medium of exchange either, but it has in the past, and it can in the future. Bitcoin never has, so it's a big leap of faith to say that one day it will. But Anthony, just with all due respect, I mean, nobody who's late to the party thinks they're late to the party. Otherwise, you wouldn't come. So you always think that it's going to keep going. But I'm telling you, the police are on their way. They're going to raid this party, and
Peter, when you're buying your Bitcoin at $250,000 a coin, I'm going to assure you that you're not that late.
Don't worry. If Bitcoin goes to 250,000, it's possible. I say it's not very probable. I mean, but nothing's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
But if it happens, I can tell you one thing: I ain't going to buy any. So don't look to me to get out.
Yeah. We do disagree on this, and not to say that gold won't be part of our future, because it's been part of our past for 5,000 plus years. And so I'm reasonably confident that gold will be part of our future, but I do believe the world is moving past gold in terms of a store of value that the largest group of our populations will be a part of. And so I want to start out with the history of money. I think it's very important. And I'll cite from Neil Ferguson's book, The Ascent of Money, where Professor Ferguson says in the book there are 3 axiomatic facts about it. Number 1, it's a technology that we're using to transfer goods and services among ourselves to avoid bartering. Number 2, it's a trusted network. And so I brought some props tonight. And so you see these in my neighborhood, these are Italian singles. And now what are these things? They're actually pieces of fabric. We call it paper money. But this piece of fabric here is about 25% linen, 75% cotton. There's a little strip in there. Interestingly enough, for America, only white dead males on our money. Last industrial nation that does that. But what is this really worth? At the end of the day, it's not worth that much. And one of the axiomatic facts from Professor Ferguson's book is that this technology, this money, is always worth less than the goods and services that we're transacting for. But what's important about this is it's a trusted network. I can pass this on to somebody, and they know with great confidence they can pass it on to somebody else. But as Satoshi Nakamoto said, or the group of people known as Satoshi Nakamoto, the inventor of Bitcoin, and the group or the gentleman or the woman that wrote this white paper, they basically explained that this money throughout history has been corrupted.
I thought it would be remiss not to mention is the environmental impacts. And I'm sorry, there was a question about that, but rather than me scroll through it, I'll just ask it. Yes, environmental impacts, particularly at a time COP26 is coming up in the UK. The international community is much more focused on environmental issues, climate change solutions than it was. I mean, environmentally, it doesn't seem to be the world's greatest blessing. Anthony, to put the pressure on you a little bit on your side on that one.
So I just want people to think through that, because if there's a world of decentralization coming and there's peer-to-peer transfer of value, you're taking out the bank teller, you're taking out the real estate associated with the bank teller, the heating and cooling off of that bank, the gas to get to the bank branch. You're changing the entire society and making it way more environmentally and economically efficient. Moreover, Bitcoin's overall carbon footprint right now is 0.13% of the world's carbon. And so I know people are upset about Bitcoin, but 56% of the mining and the tracking of Bitcoin is done through renewable energy, which would include hydropower, wind power, and solar power. And the goal for the network is to get that to 100% by the end of the decade. And I believe that that will happen.
Peter, is a soluble problem?
Well, a lot of the efficiencies that Anthony was pointing out, they can be solved without the introduction of Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is very expensive. You have to continuously expend energy to keep the Bitcoin network powered. But also what I'm worried about is not just the waste of energy and other resources, but all of the investment money, all of the talent that is being completely squandered in this crypto bubble. All sorts of very smart people are spending a lot of time, wasting a lot of time, coming up with all these crazy industries built around crypto. A lot of people are investing their money. This is a massive bubble. This is what you call a malinvestment in the Austrian school. All of this being fueled by the monetary policies of the Fed. And so at the end of the day, when this bubble pops, not only are we going to be poorer because people would have lost a lot of money, but all of that talent, all of those resources that otherwise could have been put to productive use were wasted on cryptocurrencies.
Peter says that the world hasn't been made better, but it actually has. And I want you to think about it philosophically. The blockchain and the introduction of cryptocurrency and the tokenization is going to allow us to do things way more efficiently in our society in terms of transferring goods and services. And I'll just remind you of this. We have to take these things from the government now. The money, our identities are actually granted to us from the government, where we get a passport or a driver's license. But in the world of the blockchain and the concepts of tokenization, our identity actually becomes ourselves. And it can be expressed over that network. And I just want people to think about the magnitude of that and the freedom of that, and the fact that this is so decentralized that it's relatively uncorruptible. And we know how frail human nature is as it relates to corruptibility. So I do think the world has been greatly improved. And I think Bitcoin is here to stay, and it will be a transfer mechanism for value and a store of value, and possibly a global currency over time.
Thank you both. That was an extraordinarily interesting duel. I certainly enjoyed it very much and learned a lot from it.